Chosen one, you did not arrive at this moment by chance, and neither did the presence of J in your life. There was a timing to it, a quiet orchestration beneath the surface of your days, something aligning in ways you could not yet see. You may have questioned it, doubted it, even tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but deep within you, there was always a knowing. Something about J felt different, almost as if it carried a message wrapped in mystery, a purpose disguised as an ordinary encounter, waiting for you to recognize what your soul already sensed. You see, what feels accidental is often the result of forces moving long before you became aware of them. Long before J appeared, there were shifts happening within you. Subtle changes in your thoughts, your emotions, your desires. You were being prepared, even in moments when you felt lost or disconnected. And then J entered, not randomly, not without reason, but precisely at the point where your path was ready to be interrupted, redirected, or awakened. At first, it may not have made sense. Encounters like this rarely do. They disrupt your normal patterns. They challenge your expectations. They bring confusion alongside curiosity. And that confusion is not a flaw in the process. It is part of the design. Because if everything were clear from the beginning, you would not grow. You would not question. You would not search deeper. J was not meant to give you immediate answers. It was meant to ignite something within you that had been dormant for far too long. Think back to the moment you first noticed it. There was something subtle, almost unexplainable. A feeling you couldn't quite name. Maybe it was familiarity where there should have been none. Maybe it was a sense of significance that didn't match the situation. That feeling was not imaginary. It was your inner awareness recognizing something your conscious mind had not yet caught up with. You weren't just meeting J. You were encountering a turning point. And turning points rarely arrive with clear labels. They come disguised as ordinary moments, simple interactions, fleeting experiences. But their impact echoes far beyond what they appear to be. J was one of those moments. A signal, a marker, a shift. Something placed in your path not to stay the same, but to change something within you. You may have resisted it. That's natural. When something carries deeper meaning, it often feels uncomfortable at first. It challenges your sense of control. It forces you to confront parts of yourself you may have been avoiding. J didn't just enter your life to add something new. It came to reveal something already there. Something you hadn't fully seen. Something you weren't fully ready to face until now. There is a reason it happened when it did. Not earlier, not later. Exactly when it did. Because timing is everything in these moments. If J had appeared before you were ready, you would have overlooked it. If it had come later, the opportunity might have passed. But it arrived at the precise point where your awareness could begin to open, where your perception could begin to shift. You might still be trying to understand what it means. That's part of the journey. Not everything is meant to be understood immediately. Some things unfold over time. Some meanings reveal themselves only after you've taken a few steps forward. J is not just an event to analyze. It is an experience to move through. It is something that interacts with your growth, your choices, your direction. And here is what makes it powerful. It is not about J itself. It is about what J activates within you, the questions it raises, the awareness it brings, the changes it initiates, the reflection it demands. You are not meant to focus only on what J is. You are meant to notice what you become in response to it. Because every significant encounter carries a mirror. It shows you something about yourself. Sometimes it reveals your strengths. Sometimes it exposes your fears. Sometimes it highlights the gap between where you are and where you are meant to be. J is that mirror, and what you see in it may not always be comfortable, but it is always meaningful. You may have felt drawn toward it and pushed away at the same time. That tension is not a mistake. It is the space where transformation begins. The part of you that is ready for change is pulling you forward, while the part of you that fears the unknown is holding you back. And between those two forces, you are being shaped. There is also something else you need to understand. Not every presence in your life is meant to stay forever. Some are meant to pass through, leaving behind something essential. J may not be about permanence. It may be about impact, about shifting your direction, about awakening a part of you that would not have awakened otherwise. And that does not make it less important. In fact, it makes it more significant, because its value is not measured by how long it stays, but by how deeply it changes you. Some of the most powerful moments in life are brief, but their influence lasts far beyond their duration. So instead of asking why J happened to you, begin to ask what it is trying to show you. What is it bringing to your awareness? What is it asking you to notice? What part of yourself is it calling forward? Because there is always a message. Not always obvious, not always comfortable, but always present. You may start to see patterns you didn't notice before. You may begin to question things you once accepted without thought. You may feel a shift in your priorities, your focus, your understanding of yourself. That is not coincidence. That is the effect of something entering your life with purpose. And the more you resist labeling it as random, the more you begin to see its design, the connections, the timing, the way it aligns with things you were already experiencing internally. It starts to form a picture, one that you couldn't see when you were too close to it. There is also a deeper layer to this. Sometimes, what enters your life is not just about your present. It is connected to your past and your future at the same time. It can bring unresolved thoughts to the surface. It can challenge old beliefs. It can prepare you for something that has not yet arrived. J may be doing all of this at once. That is why it feels complex. That is why it doesn't fit neatly into your expectations. Because it is not meant to be simple. It is meant to be transformative. And transformation is rarely comfortable. It asks you to let go of certainty. It asks you to step into the unknown. It asks you to trust something you cannot fully explain. And that is where most people turn away. They dismiss it. They reduce it to coincidence. They avoid the deeper meaning because it requires them to change. But you are not here to ignore it. You felt it for a reason. There was a moment, maybe quiet, maybe intense, where something inside you paused, where your usual way of thinking hesitated, where you sensed that this was different. That moment was real, and it matters, because that is where awareness begins. And once awareness begins, it cannot be undone. You may try to go back to how things were before, but something has already shifted. Your perception has expanded. Your attention has sharpened. You are noticing things you didn't notice before. You are questioning things you didn't question before. That is the effect of something entering your life with intention. And the more you move forward, the more pieces will begin to connect, not all at once. Not in a way that suddenly explains everything, but gradually, in moments, in realizations, in small shifts that add up over time. J is part of that process. Not the whole story, but a crucial chapter. And what you do with it matters. You can ignore it, and the moment will pass without its full impact. Or you can engage with it, reflect on it, allow it to guide you towards something deeper. Because this is not about being given answers. It is about being led to them. And sometimes, what leads you is not what you expect. It is not always clear. It is not always comfortable. But it is always precise in its timing. You are exactly where you need to be to experience this. And J arrived exactly when it needed to, not as an accident, not as a coincidence, but as a moment carrying meaning, waiting for you to recognize it, to feel it, to respond to it in a way that begins to shape everything that comes next. Oh, because what comes next is not separate from this moment. It is built on how you choose to see it, how you choose to interpret it, and more importantly, how you allow it to change you from within. Chosen one, understand this clearly. There are encounters in life that pass like shadows, barely leaving a trace. And then there are encounters like J, that quietly rewrite something deep inside you, even if you cannot yet explain what has been rewritten. You might still be trying to define it, to place it into a category that makes sense to your logical mind. Was it a lesson, a test, a sign, a connection, or something unfinished from a place you cannot fully remember? And the truth is, it may be all of these at once, because what carries divine timing does not limit itself to one purpose. It operates on layers, revealing itself to you only as much as you are ready to receive. There is a reason why your thoughts keep returning to it, a reason why it lingers in your awareness, even when you try to move past it. That persistence is not weakness. It is not you being stuck. It is you being called to look deeper, because when something is meant to pass, it fades naturally. It dissolves without effort. But when something is meant to transform you, it stays, it echoes, it repeats itself in your mind until you begin to understand why it mattered and what you are feeling. This mixture of curiosity, confusion, pull, and resistance is not accidental either. It is the exact emotional space where growth begins. If it were only comfortable, you would not question it. If it were only painful, you would reject it. But because it exists somewhere in between, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you searching, it keeps you open. That openness is where everything begins to shift. Because now, you are no longer moving through life on autopilot. You are paying attention. You are noticing patterns. You are sensing that there is more beneath the surface of your experiences. And that awareness changes everything, even if your external circumstances have not yet caught up. J did not enter your life to complete you. It entered your life to awaken you. There is a difference. Completion suggests that something was missing. Awakening reveals that everything you needed was already within you, waiting for the right moment to be activated. And activation often comes through contrast, through something that disrupts your usual way of seeing things, through something that forces you to confront the gap between who you are and who you are becoming. That is why it feels significant, because it is not just about the presence of J. It is about the version of yourself that begins to emerge in response to it, a version that is more aware, more reflective, more in tune with something deeper than surface-level experiences. You may begin to notice that your perspective is changing. Things that once seemed important may start to lose their weight. Things you once ignored may start to feel meaningful. This is not confusion. This is recalibration. Your internal compass is adjusting, aligning itself with a direction that is more true to who you are meant to be. And that process is not always smooth. There will be moments where you question everything. Moments where you wish things could go back to how they were before. Moments where clarity feels just out of reach. But even in those moments, something within you knows that going back is no longer an option. Because once something real touches your awareness, it leaves a mark. And that mark becomes a reference point. A reminder that there is more to your journey than what you can immediately see. You might also begin to realize that J reflects something you needed to recognize about yourself. Perhaps it revealed a strength you didn't know you had. Perhaps it exposed a fear you had been avoiding. Perhaps it showed you a desire you had been suppressing. Whatever it revealed, it did not create it. It uncovered it. That is what makes it powerful, because now you cannot unsee it, and once something is seen, it demands to be understood. This is where many people turn away. They feel the weight of that realization and choose to ignore it. They distract themselves. They convince themselves that it was nothing, that it didn't mean anything, that it was just a passing moment. But deep down, they know that is not true, and you know that too. That is why you are still thinking about it. That is why it still holds your attention. That is why it still feels unfinished. Because it is not something you were meant to dismiss. It is something you were meant to move through, to learn from, to allow to shape you in ways you are only beginning to understand. And here is where it becomes even more important. What you do next determines how this moment integrates into your life. You can either treat it as something external that happened to you, or you can recognize it as something internal that is happening through you. That shift in perspective changes everything. Because when you see it as something happening through you, you begin to take ownership of the transformation. You begin to ask deeper questions. You begin to listen more closely to what your inner awareness is telling you. And that is where clarity begins to form. Not all at once. Not in a way that suddenly answers everything, but in pieces. In realizations that come when you least expect them. In moments where something suddenly makes sense in a way it didn't before. You might find that certain memories connect to it. That certain choices now appear in a different light. That certain feelings you couldn't explain before now start to make sense. This is the unfolding of understanding, and it happens gradually as you allow yourself to remain open to it. There is also a trust being built here. Not just trust in what happened, but trust in your ability to perceive meaning beyond the obvious. Trust in your intuition. Trust in that quiet inner voice that recognized something significant before your mind could explain it. That trust is essential, because as you continue on your path, there will be other moments like this, other encounters, other signals. And the more you trust your awareness now, the more prepared you will be to recognize those moments when they arrive. J is not just a single event. It is part of a pattern of awakening that is unfolding in your life. And the more you pay attention, the more you will begin to see that pattern. You will notice how certain experiences align in ways that feel too precise to be random. You will begin to sense that there is a flow to your journey, even when it feels uncertain. You will realize that what once seemed like isolated moments are actually connected, forming a path that you are gradually becoming aware of. And in that awareness, something powerful happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is simply reacting to life, and you begin to see yourself as someone who is participating in it on a deeper level. Someone who is not just experiencing events, but interpreting them, learning from them, evolving through them. That is where your power is. Not in controlling every outcome, but in recognizing the meaning within what unfolds. J gave you an opportunity to step into that awareness, an opportunity to see beyond the surface, an opportunity to begin understanding that your life is not just a series of random events, but a sequence of moments that carry meaning, each one contributing to your growth in ways that may not be immediately visible. And even now, as you reflect on it, as you try to make sense of it, as you feel its presence in your thoughts. Something is still unfolding, because the meaning of a moment like this is not fixed. It evolves as you evolve. What it means to you now may not be what it means to you later. As you grow, as your perspective expands, as your understanding deepens, you will look back at this moment and see things you could not see before. You will recognize connections that were invisible at the time. You will understand why it happened when it did. You will see how it influenced the choices you made afterward. And you will realize that it was never just about the moment itself. It was about the direction it set in motion. That is the true significance of what entered your life. Not the surface experience, but the shift it created within you. And that shift is still happening. And that shift is still happening, even in ways you cannot fully measure yet. Chosen one, there is a quiet transformation unfolding beneath your awareness. Something that did not exist before, J, entered your life. You may try to trace it, to define the exact moment it began, but the truth is, it is not tied to a single second. It is a ripple that continues to expand, touching your thoughts, your decisions, your sense of direction. You are not the same person you were before that encounter. Even if everything on the outside appears unchanged, something on the inside has moved. Your perception has widened. Your sensitivity to meaning has deepened. You have begun to recognize that there is more to your journey than what can be explained through logic alone. And this is where your awareness becomes your guide. Because now you are standing at a point where you can choose how to move forward. You can carry this moment as something confusing, something unresolved, something that lingers without purpose. Or you can begin to see it as a key, a point of entry into a deeper understanding of yourself and the path you are walking. What matters is not whether you have all the answers right now. What matters is that you remain open to the process of discovering them. There is a reason you felt what you felt, a reason it stayed with you, a reason it continues to echo in your thoughts. That reason is not outside of you. It is within you, waiting to be acknowledged. You do not need to force clarity. You do not need to rush understanding. What is meant for you will reveal itself in its own time, as long as you stay present, as long as you stay aware, as long as you do not close yourself off to what this moment has awakened inside you. Because the truth is, J was never the destination. It was the doorway. A doorway into a deeper awareness of who you are, what you feel, what you are capable of seeing beyond the surface of things. It was a moment that interrupted your routine, just enough to make you question, to make you pause, to make you look inward instead of outward for meaning. And once a doorway like that is opened, it does not close the same way again. You may step away from it. You may try to return to familiar patterns. But something in you will always remember that there is more depth, more meaning, more connection between your experiences than you once believed. That memory becomes part of you. It becomes a quiet knowing that guides you, even when you are not consciously thinking about it. It influences your choices in subtle ways. It shapes how you interpret future moments. It prepares you to recognize significance when it appears again, even if it comes in a different form. And that is how your journey evolves. Not through sudden, dramatic changes, but through moments like this. Moments that seem small at first, but carry something far greater beneath the surface. Moments that shift your awareness just enough to change the way you move through everything that follows. So do not dismiss what happened. Do not reduce it to something ordinary, just because you cannot fully explain it yet. Allow it to exist as it is. Allow it to be part of your growth. Allow it to continue unfolding within you. Because what entered your life did not come to confuse you. It came to awaken you. And now that you are aware of it, now that you have felt its presence, now that you have begun to see beyond the surface, you are no longer walking the same path unconsciously. You are walking it with awareness. And that awareness will continue to guide you, to shape you, to reveal more to you as you move forward, step by step, moment by moment, into a version of yourself that is still unfolding, still becoming, still discovering the deeper meaning behind everything that once seemed random, until one day you realize with complete clarity that nothing about it was ever E-C-K-D-B-E, nothing about it was ever misplaced, and nothing about J was ever an accident.